Hi, welcome to 5 Minutes of Torah with BI Rabbi. I'm Rabbi Adam Stein. Hope you can hear me okay. I'm outside. You can see I'm at VGH Hospital. There it is. And they're even doing some construction to build a new state-of-the-art surgical facility which will serve the people of Vancouver and the province well into the future. I was just doing a little visiting here. It's only the second time I've come to the hospital to visit people since mid-March, but thankfully now clergy are able to visit a little bit more than in recent months. I want to tell you a little bit about an article I was reading this week. It's called The Mysterious Life of Birds Who Never Come Down. It's really fascinating. It was in the New York Times, and the woman who wrote it was talking about the swift, the common swift, a very small bird that you see flying up in the air. She writes that they're creatures of the upper air and of their nature unintelligible, which makes them more akin to angels. She finds one on the ground and it had died sadly, maybe hit something, maybe of just natural causes, but she held it in her palm. She observed the crossed wings and closed eyes, and she didn't know what to do. She actually found it under a bridge near the River Thames, so she must have been in London. The bird, she said, was suffused with a kind of seriousness very akin to holiness. What a powerful description to read as we're summoned to think about our own mortality. This dead bird was suffused with a kind of seriousness akin to holiness. You know, we're thinking about our own mortality during this pandemic, and especially as we're coming up on the high holy days. Remember, the main theme and set of metaphors during the Chagim is that of God sitting on a throne and in judgment, judging who will decide who will live and who will die in the coming year. It's an intense and powerful idea and set of symbols, and maybe not taken extremely literally by many of us, but it's still a strong push to action, especially when we read and hear the words of the Unatana Tokef, probably the most famous prayer of the High Holy Days. Not a blessing, and maybe not even a prayer really, but a liturgical poem called a piyut. It's traditionally ascribed to Rabbi Amnon of Mainz in Germany, the 10th or 11th century, but now scholars think it might have been written in the Byzantine period in the land of Israel. Who shall perish by water and who by fire? Who by sword and who by wild beast? Who by famine and who by thirst? Who by earthquake and who by plague? Who by strangulation and who by stoning? Words that are all the more powerful now that we're in the midst of a plague, a disease that often strangles its victims, preventing them from breathing. And as we saw a huge fire from a blast at the port of Beirut, killing hundreds and injuring thousands. So awful. But I want to go back to the swift, the bird I mentioned in the beginning. The journalist kept the bird actually in her freezer. A little strange, I know. But as spring came around the following year, she saw the first returning swifts flowing down from the clouds, and she knew what she had to do. She went to the freezer, she took out the swift, and buried it in the garden, 1 hand's width deep, in the earth newly warmed by the sun. This kind of bird, I learned from the article, and even the title of the article, never descends to the ground. And I wanted to make sure, so I checked an academic article on a university website. And it's true, the common swift spends almost its entire life in the air, essentially never touching the ground once it learns how to fly. So as we fly through troubles over the past several months, and especially this week, let us pray that we can fly and fly like the swift, looking down on the earth with compassion and perhaps even landing once in a while. I invite you to join us tonight for Snack and Yak, a little schmoozing from 5:30 to 6 on Zoom. Our services at 6 o'clock. Tomorrow morning we're meeting as always at 9:30 for Shabbat morning services. And tomorrow night will be, I think, 9:35. Finally, it's getting a little bit earlier. 9:30 or 9:35. You can check our website for Ma'ariv and Havdalah. And then Monday night, the last of my 4-session series on the Psalms that I've been co-teaching with the Reverend Helen Dunn, Anglican priest of Christ Church Cathedral downtown. It's been really great bringing the ideas and liturgies of our Anglican and Jewish traditions to bear on the Psalms that show up in our prayers. Shabbat Shalom, and we'll see you soon.